Headed into the King Tut tomb now.
November 4th, 1922, by a British archaeologist called Howard Carter. Okay, so I would say the story of the discovery of the tomb, the story of King Tutankhamun. So, King Tutankhamun was a young boy who started ruling Egypt when he was about 8 or 9 years old. And he died also very young, at the age of 18. Okay? The reason why he started ruling young, because he was the only boy of the pharaoh, of his father, King Akhenaten. And according to the ancient Egyptian traditions, after the death of a pharaoh, the eldest son would rule after his father. In the case of King Tut, he was the only son, the only boy. So he had to rule Egypt. He had to be the king of Upper and Lower Egypt when he was at the age of 8 years old. But he was not full royal blood, because he was the son of the king, but not from the royal wife, from a secondary wife. So to give himself the full right to rule the country, the priests had him to marry his half-sister, Ankh-Esenamun. She was his sister from the same pharaoh, but from the royal wife, from the other wife. So they had to marry, so King Tut would have the full right to be the pharaoh of Egypt. Why he died suddenly? We have multiple theories why King Tut died suddenly and at a young age. The very first theory that was based on the examination of Howard Carter himself when he found the mummy inside the tomb, he found a crack on the back of the skull of the mummy. So he thought that someone hit him hard on the back of his head to kill him, led to his death. But then after that, further examination on the mummy of King Tutankhamun, on the hip bones on the mummy here, it showed a sign of inflammation. That's led them to think that he had a very bad injury. So this was the second theory. But the most recent theory and the most confirmed one was in 2010, when they brought a CT scan to the tomb of King Tutankhamun and they scanned the whole mummy. That allowed us to know that he was suffering from multiple diseases during his lifetime, like malaria, smallpox, diabetes, and so many other. And it's confirmed that he got a bad injury. With all the diseases he had, he couldn't survive that bad injury. So all of those reasons led to the death of King Tutankhamun at a young age. Since he died suddenly and at a young age, he didn't have a tomb ready for himself. There was no tomb for him because no one was expecting him to die that young. He was given this tomb from the high priest. This tomb was originally not for a royal person, it was for the high priest. That's why it's the smallest size, because it's not for a royal person. And the tomb inside, it's not fully decorated. Only the burial chamber of the tomb that has paintings on the walls. Why? Because they only had a very limited time, the time of the mummification,
Right.
to decorate only one part, which was the burial chamber inside the tomb of King Tutankhamun. He had a bad injury, affected his lungs, so he was advised by the doctor that he needs to avoid cold weather. That's why he started to come to Egypt at every winter, especially to Luxor, because it's warmer here. When he came during his visits to Egypt, this was the time when most of the archaeologists and the scholars are doing the excavation works all over Egypt, especially in the Valley of the Kings here, because all the royal tombs start to be found in the Valley of the Kings, so everyone was interested to come to the site here and to do excavation work. The guy was so fascinated by everything he saw when he visited Valley of the Kings, but he had no idea about the archaeology work. But he has the money. He was introduced to another British archaeologist named Howard Carter, who used to work in Egypt already, and they agreed that he will fund the work of Howard Carter to lead excavation work in the Valley of the Kings. Howard Carter started the excavation here, and it took him a long time. He was not finding any tombs. And most of the other archaeologists start already to leave the Valley of the Kings believing there is no more tombs to be found because there's 61 tombs has been already discovered at that point. Lord Carnarvon, the guy who was sponsoring it, paying the money, started to get mad from Carter because he was spending a lot of money, was nothing to be found. So Howard Carter was given a chance to have his last excavation season. If he didn't find anything, the guy would stop the funds. Luckily, Howard Carter found the most important archaeological discovery we've ever had in Egypt till today. The tomb of King Tutankhamun, that is very unique for one reason. It's the only royal tomb that was ever found till today intact, with all of the treasures inside the tomb. Although it is the smallest tomb in the Valley of the Kings, because it's not meant to be a royal tomb, we found over 5,000 pieces of artifacts.
Wow.
Okay? Once Howard Carter found the first step through the tomb, followed by 16 other steps, they start to digging, then he make it through the main chamber that was undecorated, like plain walls, because the workers didn't get time to decorate it. He saw thousands of pieces of artifacts just laying on top of each other, not in a very organized way.
Right.
Okay? At the end, he didn't find anything else except for this main chamber. He didn't find the burial chamber in the beginning. He didn't see a mummy. So he was not sure that this is a tomb because the burial chamber was hidden. It was blocked by a wall. Okay? When he started to examine the artifacts inside the part he found, he saw those two guarding statues. Two statues standing in front of each other, looks like guards. He started to thinking and wondering, if they are guarding, what are they doing all the way at the back of this room? Why they are not at the front of the room? Unless they are protecting something very important hidden behind this wall. So he took down the wall. He was able to find the burial chamber of King Tutankhamun. He was able to find all of the golden stuff, starting from a big burial shrine, gilded wood, almost the same size of the whole burial chamber inside, with the doors and the royal seal of the pharaoh. This was the point that he made sure that no one touched this tomb or this far inside the tomb before. He opened the doors to find another one a bit smaller fitted inside, into a third one, into a fourth one. Okay? Like the dolls, Russian dolls, all inside each other. Inside the most inner burial shrine, the fourth one, he found the granite sarcophagus that you will see inside the tomb. Inside the granite sarcophagus, he found a coffin, the first coffin. Opened the coffin to find the second one. Opened the second one to find the third coffin. The third coffin, the most inner coffin, was made out of pure solid gold, around 113 kilograms of gold, like 300 pounds of gold. Finally, inside all of those pieces, all inside each other, he was able to find the mummy of King Tutankhamun, all covered with jewelry, starting from the funeral mask, the golden funeral mask, 11 kilograms of pure gold, all the necklaces and the jewelry of the pharaoh covering the whole mummy of King Tutankhamun. Okay, from the date of the discovery of the first step of the tomb till the last piece left the tomb to the museum in Cairo, the whole process took almost 10 years. A lot of documentation, restoration, photographing, a lot of issues happened during the time. One of the main issues that happened, that the main exclusive rights for the news to cover the excavations was to the BBC and to the New York Times. The Egyptians, especially the Egyptian media, started to feel like there is something shady. And we don't have a very good experience from the British because there is a lot at the British Museum already. So the people start to concern that King Tut's artifacts will end up being at the British Museum or will end up being stolen and taken outside of Egypt. So the Egyptian authorities stopped the work in the tomb till they made sure that nothing of the artifacts of King Tutankhamun will be taken outside of his tomb. Although there are some rumors that few pieces has been taken by Howard Carter and the Lord Carnarvon outside of the tomb. Other issues that's so called by the media the curse of the pharaohs, when some of the people start to die from like random causes. We will talk about it later, what led to the beginning of the curse of the pharaoh theory. Okay, now you will go inside and you'll be able to see the sarcophagus and the mummy of King Tutankhamun. The body is wrapped, but you can see his actual face and the feet.
Crazy story about how they found this tomb in here.
Thousands of years old. The tomb was even planned to expand more than it's already the largest, but there was a plan to even make it larger. But because of the death of the pharaoh, they didn't continue the tomb. That's why when you go all the way in, you will see a part that's blocked that used to take to do stairs that it was supposedly to keep expand. A whole complete version or copy from Book of the Dead for the ancient Egyptian is represented inside this tomb, and a lot of astrology scenes for almost everything, all the knowledge that the ancient Egyptian knew about astrology and the stars and constellations are all represented on the ceilings inside the tomb of Sety the First. Okay, you go enjoy.
Oh my God, look at this two-headed snake with the wing, the three-headed.
These walls have just been outlined, but they never finished chiseling the design and coloring it. The rest of our crew getting off the nice golf carts that we got to take on the way up and down the hill.
Photographs from the tomb of King Tutankhamun, and also a photo of from the New York Times, dates back to the 1923 for the head page for all the title of the discovery.
of the tomb of King Tutankhamun, as they had an exclusive right together with the BBC. Only both the two newspapers had the rights to announce all the news about the discovery of the tomb of King Tutankhamun. The team of the archaeologists who entered the tomb or entered the burial chamber of King Tutankhamun for the very first time, there were 17 of them. Within a very short time from entering the burial chamber of King Tutankhamun, multiple people died. From the first group of archaeologists went inside the burial chamber of King Tut. One of the people who died was Lord Carnarvon, the guy who was sponsoring the work for the discovery. He got bitten by a mosquito in his cheek. When he was shaving, he cut himself. He got blood poison. He went to the hospital. Once he got to the hospital, the electricity went out of the city and he died at the hospital. They couldn't save him. Another man was shot by his wife back in London. Another person committed suicide. He jumped over the bridge in London. So all of those weird things that happened led to the theory of the curse of King Tutankhamun. Trees over there, this is the house of Howard Carter, the guy who found the tomb of King Tutankhamun. This was his house during the time he was responsible for the excavations in the Valley of the Kings here. He was living here. Every day in the morning he takes his horse down to the valley for the excavation work.
What's there now?
Right now it's like a small private museum. Doesn't have any artifacts or anything. It's the normal house stuff that he was using. Something also interesting related to the discovery of the tomb of King Tutankhamun, the first exhibit for the artifacts of King Tut that goes outside of Egypt, went to the US after a request from the President Nixon. In 1973, Egypt had a war with Israel that ended with a peace signed in Camp David between Egypt, Israel, and the US. Then the relations started to be good with the US and Israel. President Nixon the following year came and visited Egypt in 1974, and he asked from the Egyptian president at the time, President Sadat, to allow for the artifacts of King Tut to travel to the US for an exhibit. The Egyptian government agreed, but they asked for a very high insurance, and they asked that the shipping process to be very secured. So an order was given to the US Navy. 2 ships from the US Navy came to Alexandria and carried some of the artifacts of King Tutankhamun. And at the time in 1974, the insurance amount for those pieces of artifacts were $150 million US. And the American president at the time, because Nixon died, and Gerald Ford had to issue a law through the Congress because to get the agreement that the U.S. government would have $150 million as an insurance for the artifacts of King Tutankhamun. And they went to the U.S. for the first time in that year, and they visited 6 cities in the U.S. Among those cities, New York and Chicago. But the golden mask of King Tut, the masterpiece of King Tutankhamun, never left Egypt in any of the exhibits outside.